Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Perdue.
Hey, it's that time again for us to get started. Let's get all fired up, motivated. Let's get some inspiration. As I say, let's grab that one little nugget that can help you get through some trials and tribulations. All right. Hey, today this is going to, up. What's your name? I forgot your name. What's your name? Oh,
Marilyn.
No, I know Marilyn. I can't think who I told to call. Who did I tell? Come on. Oh, I'll remember you in a minute. But I told you, Ken Brown. Hey, if you're coming in, buddy, I told you, the story is going to be not exactly the same, but the concept's the same. So if you hope you're in here listening, if not, catch you as we say on the flip side. All right. Hey, our guest today, she said that her and her brother were both close at heart, but they intersected at the height of their own crisis, with one of them desperately wanting to live, the other one desperately wanted to unalive, wanted to go. All right. The roller coaster story of resilience, tragedy, family, love, and hope. And remember, there's always hope. Welcome to the show, Marilyn Getas Byrne.
Thank you so very much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. And you're right, there is always hope. And that is a fundamental message.
I got a brother from another mother named Bird Baggett. Hey, Bird, we're talking about you again, bud, because he said one of his big things is providing hope for people, teaching them how to look for that hope. And he said, I forgot exactly, we can go 30 days without food, whatever the number is. We can go just minutes without oxygen. He said, but we can't go 5 seconds without hope. Wow. That's when everything tears apart, when we lose that hope.
Yeah, that is so profound and I think you find that hope by staying in the moment. Like you said, it's just each moment, and reminding yourself, hope is always there. Hope is alive. And all is well in this moment, and then to the next moment, and to the next moment. It's really a practice.
It desperate is a practice, because again, if you're being hit with that big trials and tribulation, the adversity, you're not expecting anything coming your way that throws you off balance. If you haven't practiced this, looking for hope. Hey, I heard a baby.
Yeah, that's little Winnie.
Her baby. There she is.
There she is, little Winnie.
There you go.
I think she sees a squirrel outside.
There you go.
Oh,
she's hoping to go chase it down.
She is. It's got her fired up here.
There we go. And so, but we lose that little hope when we're going through those hard times. It makes things more difficult. It gets us in that mind frame of where we don't need to be. Hey, if anybody gets in a mind frame of suicide, and that I've been there, okay? What's that new number that you say called suicide hotline? But it's 988 is the number. If you talk to someone, Marilyn, whether you know it or not, but I attempted suicide 3 times in 3 days. That's how bad I wanted out. And one reason is I lived, and for whatever reason, God, apparently still have a plan to do something here. And that's one reason why I started this podcast. I thought people were tired of hearing my story. Let's get other people's stories out and go from there. And it gives me some inspiration today to get started. And again, 100 years from now, everybody else is going to hear your story, Marilyn, and they're going to get a piece of it.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that, because it's a good reminder that we are, also, not only is there always the hope, but we're never alone. And hearing that from you just reinvigorates what I want to do too, because I think through my own trials and tribulations, I really want to my sole purpose is to share, not preach, not lecture, but share in an effort to give back. I don't want my story to be in vain. I want people to learn from the things I've learned from. And if I can share that effectively and articulate that in a way that maybe there's a nugget that someone can take with them in their own lives and realize, even though all of us have a story, all of us have had trials, but it's to be able to, I think, take the wisdom that comes from the trial and then somehow find those moments of sharing and being willing to get vulnerable and to be willing to connect and share. And I have found so many times in my own life how I could be talking to someone at the grocery store and I get that wisdom, that nugget that carries me through the next time. So thank you for giving me a platform here and a conversation to have with you that offers some support in what I want to do as well.
Yeah, we're going to get started and we're going to fire some people up and we're going to get them something again, like you said, that little nugget, and then let's pay it forward.
Yes.
Push that little nugget a little bit further away from you that someone else can use it. Yes. And again, you keep pushing it, they keep pushing it, everybody keeps paying it forward. Then again, Marilyn, 100 years from now, your little nugget's going to be used then. And yes. You have no idea it's ever been used, but have confident faith that it will be and is going to be used.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Marilyn, let's get started here. So I know at one point you went through breast cancer, and I don't know if what else is going on, but let's go ahead and go ahead and put us in the story where we need to start off at.
Yes. Okay. So I was 40 years old with a 7 and a 4-year-old at home. I had been a news anchor and worked in the news business for 20 years. And life just sort of was chugging along. I was, career was rising and kids were healthy and my marriage strong and my family, my parents, my siblings, all of us seemingly doing well and progressing. And so this felt like an out of left field moment where I found a lump in my left breast. I made an appointment with my doctor immediately, who got me in the next day. And he just kept feeling this lump and then comparing, it was in the left breast, comparing it to the right breast. And he said, Marilyn, I think we will all sleep better tonight if you head over to the breast care center. And by 2:43 p.m. that afternoon, a radiologist, after several mammograms and a biopsy, told me, you have breast cancer. And that just thrust me into a world that I didn't even know existed. I was handed a binder with names of oncologists and radiologists and therapists and alternative medicine therapies. And it was just overwhelming. And I went home with my husband. He was there with me. We were in shock. I remember my gown, my hospital gown, kind of quivering. And I didn't feel myself shaking, but I could see the gown moving. So I knew I was more scared than I could process in the moment. And I remember the doctor's voice sounded like she was underwater. It was really, it was alarming. And I went home and we told our children, and we just said that, they said, why did someone else pick us up from school today? And what's going on? And so we were as honest as we could, age appropriate, of course. Mm-hmm. But the doctor did tell me, because I asked in the moment, how do you even begin to tell your kids? And she said, remember, be as honest as you can, because the stories they'll make up in their own minds will be worse. So I thought that was great advice. And
it is some great advice.
Yeah. And we're a family. We don't, we're not keeping secrets here. We're going to have to live with this and go through this together. So that was something that was very important for me to ask and try to find out what is the best approach there with children as young as 7 and 4. And my son, who's a big baseball fan at the age of 7, even, that was just always his passion. He was watching the World Series with the San Francisco Giants, which is his team, and the Texas Rangers. And I remember him sitting on the couch, he's watching the game and kind of asking these questions about, where were you? And why didn't you pick us up from school? And I told him that, I had to go to the doctor and that there was a lump in my breast and that's going to have to come out. And his eyes instantly filled with tears. And, he said, is it cancer? And I couldn't believe this young child who had no real experience with that had some sort of awareness about that. And I said, yes, it is. And he then, of course, started peppering the questions like, does everybody get cancer at some point? Am I going to get cancer? So it led to a serious discussion, but an opening to start facing it from the beginning.
Wow. And for him to ask that, children are more aware of what sort of they're hearing around them than most adults want to believe. And so somewhere he's heard a friend talk about cancer or saw it on TV in a movie or something, or Dave Trevecchi, who played for San Francisco, had cancer in his pitching arm. Yep. And after he did all his treatment, come back and pitch, and all of a sudden his arm broke from the treatment and then had to have his arm amputated. Again, from San Francisco. You didn't know I'd know that there, huh?
That's very good. That's very good. And yes, he was aware. That's true.
Yeah. So I would love to get hold of Dave Trevecchi and get you on our podcast. Dave Trevecchi, if you're listening, buddy, someone knows Dave Trevecchi, get a hold of me. I want to have him on my show.
Oh, so, let's work on that.
Because actually after I had my suicide attempt, one of my books, because I felt like I just wasn't worthy of a man anymore. And not from being in the wheelchair at that point, because I've been in the wheelchair over 20 years then. It's just a life came and hit me again and everything. But I read his book, The Worth of a Man. Here he is, losing his money making, his pitching arm. And he was wondering, what is he going to be able to do in life and stuff. And so Dave Trevecchi, if you're hearing this or someone know him, pass me on. I want to get him on the show.
There you go. And I think when you're an athlete too, and you would know this as an athlete, it's so much a part of your identity, to be able to move that body, to execute when you want to execute, and it's a mindset, right? But I think that mindset also carries you through. I played college volleyball. And so that mindset, being on a team, being, the next play is the most important, got to let it go. What has just happened, you feel it, you learn from it and move on. So I think there are a lot of things to be applied when you're going through really tough times.
Oh yeah. And not everybody gets to play sports, but I really believe the competition that's involved in learning from, like all that you said, and it really helps you prepare stuff in life that you can still use the same stuff you learned, even though you're not in sports now.
Yes.
It's the same thing still going, because you're still competing in life among yourself to survive as best as possible.
Exactly. And so it's that keep moving on. We have wins and we have losses, and you just keep moving. You keep taking it step by step. And that's certainly how I feel like I got through the cancer journey. I ended up having to have a double mastectomy. I did 20 rounds of chemo. I had 6 weeks of radiation, and I ended up with an 18-inch blood clot that went from the top of my jugular down across my chest and down my right arm, where they had the PICC line that administers the chemo. And it was throwing clots to the lungs, and I was really in grave condition in the hospital for about 9 days. And I remember thinking, all I could think of at that time was I didn't want to orphan my children. As a mother, I wasn't thinking about career and money and none of that.
Oh no, it goes back to the basics again. Totally. Don't want to leave the children and let them wonder and what's going on. And wise mom. Yeah, I understand. I've actually interviewed 2 other women many moons ago now, because the show's been going on for 4 or 5 years now. But they both told me they were on a suicide mission. And again, if anybody ever thinking of it, dial 988, go to get some help, talk to someone. lie to them. Don't tell them your name if you don't want to, but be perfectly honest what you're going through so they can give you suggestions to help you.
Totally. Well,
But
and I never felt personally suicidal. I think I had my down days. I felt fairly positive throughout my experience. I try to put my finger on that at times. I felt like I was riding kind of a river of support and love from my community and my family, and I really clung on to that. But in between the double mastectomy and the start of chemotherapy was just a 2-week period there.
mhm.
My brother, a dentist of 30 years, showed up on our doorstep in a catatonic state, and he was also suicidal. And we took him in and we cared for him. And we did that off and on for quite some time. And he was in and out of hospitals. And we were trying to figure out what happened to him because this was not the brother we knew. He looked different. He had a hard time articulating anything. He was really, really in the depths.
Mhm.
And that was terrifying. And I think what was so scary about that was, being on the cancer journey, there's so much protocol. This is Winnie.
There you go.
There is this protocol that is pretty well established for breast cancer. You're going to do the surgery, you're going to do the chemo, you're going to do the radiation. And there's a lot of support around it. And when you have cancer, what do people always say? Oh my gosh, they're a hero. It's like this, she's a survivor. And that is a beautiful thing to feel. That survivorship is to be celebrated. But I really felt for my brother because there was this stigma around his mental illness and whatever happened to him. I felt that his journey, his struggle at that time was more rooted in, there was more uncertainty even than facing the cancer. There was more of I don't want to use the term guinea pig, but I felt like he had to go through a lot of trial and error to try to figure out something that could help lift him out of this massive depression. And so it was painful to watch that as I was going through my own journey and trying to care for this man who was a dentist, had a couple of homes, was successful, had his own life rolling. And my husband and I had become his guardians. So
Wow.
taking that on in the middle and raising 2 young children,
Yeah.
was brutal. It was brutal. And so I wrote a memoir about this journey, and I won't give away the ending because I think it's important to take the ride before we know how things unfold. But it was such a learning experience to see what my brother had to go through. So there was this juxtaposition between a sister, myself, who desperately wanted to live, and my brother who could not see the hope. And really, he wanted to die. And it was hard for me to reconcile and understand from a place of pure begging for my life.
Yeah.
So that resulted in quite a few conversations, and a lot of learning about how we're all on our own journeys. We're all at a different level of connection with ourselves and with others. And I don't know how to explain it. We both grew up in the same household where there was a lot of light in our home. There was a lot of love. And we got to a point where he couldn't see that anymore. And I was always struggling towards that light. So no matter how hard I tried to help him see that, it was very hard for him.
Yeah. Everything gets in that brain. I know from experiencing that. Everything's just so foggy in there. I mean, they're listening to you, but they're not comprehending, understanding. It just, thinking of all the other stuff that's going on. Now what I was getting to a minute ago is the two women. I'm not saying you were suicidal, but the
Yeah.
two women they were talking. They said they were on a suicide mission,
Yeah.
and what stopped them is they turned around and looked at their children, and their
Mm.
children they couldn't see leaving them behind. Where's mama? Just like you said, they want to leave your children, wondering what's happening, what's going on, where's mama in there. And they said they just couldn't do it because their children didn't want to leave them an orphan, like you said.
Yeah.
And I said, so you telling me your children saved your life, huh?
Mm.
So, so
True.
yeah, so
True.
it's the children are powerful in helping people out, wherever they're at,
Yeah.
and powerful in the healing point here. Again,
Yes.
your children gave so much hope to you that stay around with them gave you a
Yes.
better opportunity to fight, to take in the treatments, to do everything you're supposed to do, the healthy part of it. Yeah. Children, they're powerful.
Well, they always have been the purpose, right? You
Yeah.
raising them. I told my husband at one point, I said, when I thought that I could die, and the doctors thought I could die, and we were all
Hmm.
kind of waiting. I think the doctors said on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is your home and you're resting, and 1 is you're dead. I was at a 2, and I just wasn't hitting those benchmarks that they were looking for, and I just wasn't getting better. And but at some point, I was able to articulate to my husband that, all those years with the kids, you were doing what you could to even keep them from scraping a knee. You never wanted to see them hurt. Of
Hmm.
course, you had to allow them to go through certain things so they could learn, but you just would do anything to prevent their suffering. And I thought, gosh, if I die, I'm going to crush them. This would crush them. And I just held on to that. I don't know if that had to do with some of the fight that was still left in me, but they definitely were a purpose and a focus. And I really am grateful that they helped me without them even understanding that they
Yeah.
helped me get through.
Oh, yeah. So I
And
tell you what,
they know it now, though.
there you go.
Yeah.
And now they're saying, Mama,
Yeah, right.
Mama.
Mom, I know this. Yeah.
That's right. So I
Yeah.
tell you what, that is with all our vocabularies that we all have throughout life and words we don't even use and do use and whatever. Boy, it's strange how, and this is not the only word, there's other words, but this one word cancer just tears people to freaks them out to death,
Totally.
And I'm not talking whether it's a breast cancer. My mom had lung cancer, and
Mhm.
she's 30-year cancer free now.
Mm.
She lived 80, just had her 85th birthday 2 weeks
Oh,
ago.
congratulations.
So
And to you.
um, I got a friend that's going through pancreatic cancer right
Wow.
now, and he's been 8 months treatments right now. Things are looking good, but yeah, but it doesn't matter what type of leukemia. It doesn't matter what type. You hear that C word,
Yeah,
and first thing is you go straight to death in your head.
totally.
You
Totally.
know.
I think, and I do think, here you are, you're battling a life-threatening disease. So obviously this is going to be a part of your uh, immediate awareness is I don't want to die from this, and this could kill me. So
Hmm.
you got to take action, and try to get your mind in a good place. And how do you do some of these things? I now work as a volunteer patient navigator, where I'm paired with newly diagnosed cancer patients.
Hmm.
And it is such an honor and such a privilege to walk that journey with somebody else. And my story, or my survival now of 14 years since my diagnosis, really provides an up close and personal look at the possibility of survivorship, and that is possible. And they can ask me any question. I am totally transparent, without scaring them too. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
you don't go too far down the road. You kind of keep meeting them where they are. And what I find is, you're right about the fear. There is something so gripping for not only the patient going through it, But for people who don't have cancer, I hear people talk about, I hope I never get that. Oh, I hope that never happens to me. And when I was newly diagnosed, there were a couple people who asked if they could get it from me. They thought I was
Oh,
contagious.
wow.
And that was
Okay.
grown adults. That was so
I
interesting
mean,
to
you're
me.
talking, this is, when was this with you? What year?
Right after I was diagnosed, this was 2010.
Okay. I'm thinking this is 2010, not 1910.
No,
And to
no, and
think that you could pass it on.
it was a
Wow.
subtle
Okay.
comment. It was like,
Yeah.
you don't think I'll get this, do you? So maybe it wasn't as literal as you're going to pass it to me, but maybe
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
will happen to me as well. But I think people are so afraid of cancer, they almost don't want to be around the cancer patient. And I hear,
I can see that.
yeah,
Uh,
they might not know what to say, or maybe just the whole thing makes them uncomfortable. And another thing I hear, and I think this is society driven, a lot of women who are going to go through treatment and know they're going to lose their hair and maybe lose their breasts, the fear of how they're going to look and be perceived in a world that puts a lot of pressure on women to look a certain way.
yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I definitely can see that. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So there are a lot of layers to this. But the fear, you nailed it. There is so much fear around cancer. And I do think as cancer rates are rising, and thank goodness treatments are getting better, and people they're able to treat even certain patients with stage 4 cancers with like sort of as a long-term illness. With immunotherapy and drugs that are coming on board that really are extending people's lives way beyond where it was, years ago. But I know what you're talking about, and it's again, even in people who don't have cancer or don't even have a family member with cancer, it's just that fear that's out there. It may be coming, and I always try when people talk to me about that. I always try to remind them to stay in the moment. It's like anything else. We can't control all the things that are coming down the pike. But what we can do is remember that we have 100% track record for overcoming, because we're here today. So no matter what's coming down the pike, we will handle it one way or another. Maybe not gracefully, maybe not, with a lot of confidence at times.
yeah. Yeah.
But we'll do it. We have, because we've overcome all the things that have come in our life. And that's kind of a good thing to remind yourself of, because when things do happen, it helps you kind of have that rudder in the water. It's like, and I think you can prepare yourself in ways too for the unknown by a lot of self-care and a lot of good self-talk and a lot of, what is your practice? Is it prayerful? Is it meditative? Things where you can get kind of in touch with the part of yourself that can strengthen that inner rudder, is the word I like to use. So
I made a little picture. I'm going to make it as a t-shirt. I've been trying to make t-shirts for my friend that's going through this pancreatic cancer to help, keep him going, to keep him inspired, motivated. And like one of them, one cartoon too, that pulled his tooth out of his hole, and I said, hang on like a loose tooth. And in the South, we say, your son going to Georgia Tech, he'll learn it. In the South, we like to say, hang it in like a hair in a biscuit. So made a t-shirt with a biscuit with a hair in it and had this thing on there for him. But this one here, I've taken a picture and got a flower, a rose, growing in the midst of crap. Okay.
wow,
And so
that's
the
really
thing, so the storyline, the thing is, we walk through fertilizer, fertilizer to finally get to that flower,
yes,
in
yes.
life. And so,
You know,
like you said, we've been through stuff all our life, basically, real bunch of small stuff, and the big stuff finally hits. But we've been through it already, and we've won all through there. So why not give this a chance to try to beat it as well?
yes. Yes. You know, it's interesting that you bring up the rose because in my book, I talk about saplings, trees that are growing, and those young saplings that take root beneath the soil. And it's a dark place there in the soil, right? And they're searching for the light. They're coming up. They don't always make it, you know, some it's a journey there in the dark to come out of the soil and into the light. And I find that I really resonate with what you just said about the rose.
There you go. You can use it. Go ahead. I don't have
Yeah,
no
okay,
copyright
thank
on
you.
it. I don't have no copyright on it. So, but it's it's amazing. You know, we go back to I don't care what cancer. You just hear that word, and all of a sudden, like I said, we just go straight to death. We don't think what's in between. I remember the first time when I was a young kid that uh, hearing or learning about cancer,
Mhm.
and I was probably 11, 12 years old, and watching the movie Brian Song.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, it's
None of that remake stuff that they made 15 years or 20 years ago. The original Brian Song is
With
one to
James
watch.
Caan, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Gail Sayers, well,
Bill
he was
Sayers and James. Yes. Oh, it was a great movie and what a tearjerker. Oh,
yeah. But that was the first time that I can think of remember hearing about cancer.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
I
and that,
think for me too, it was the one with Deborah Winger and Shirley MacLaine and
oh,
um,
Terms of Endearments.
Terms of Endearment. Yeah.
Yeah. My
And that was,
grandmother, she used to watch that a lot.
yeah.
My grandmother, she was a nurse.
It's a
So, but
beautiful, beautiful movie, but oh, it's you know, tough at the end.
I
But I think that you're
when
right.
Sheridan McLean comes out hollering, "Give her medicine! Why aren't they giving her medicine? Why
Yes.
she's in pain? Give her medicine!" Just going off. I had to do that one time with my mom was in the hospital a couple of years ago. Not the medicine part, but
Mm-hmm.
she had used the bathroom in bed and 2 hours laying because they kept saying we'd be there in a minute. And I had to go out in the hallway yelling, "If it was your mother, you wouldn't been 2 hours laying there." And finally
There
they
we go.
came, but I
You
learned
know,
that from
and
I learned that from that movie.
yeah, well, you know, that advocacy is huge and we have to do that for our loved ones who are struggling. We have to be their voices at times, you know. And I know I would not have gotten through my experience without the support of my family, my friends, and my community. We had a hot meal on our porch every other night for about 9 months and people could not have been more generous. I think as much as they might fear cancer, it also stirs them to want to do something.
Yeah.
And so the help that we had, the offers to drive our kids to and from school, the offers to drive me to the chemo center, the offers to send their cleaning people over to the house to help me, you know, with housework. It was beautiful. It was inspiring. It helped keep me going because I felt like there was this webbing of support that wasn't going to allow me to fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well, it
same for my kids and my husband. Yeah.
goes back what you mentioned earlier about playing volleyball, and
Mhm.
you learn to play as a team. And so now you got all these other teammates that's wanting
Yes.
to help out, clean the house, bring in food, take
Yeah.
your children to school, take your children to their ball games, whatever it is. And again, that's a big thing in life is when you get that community that we're all helping each other.
Totally. Totally.
You know,
And
we
you know,
got that support system.
it was heartbreaking to watch the kids and my husband going in and out of the door to their things, you know, to
Hmm.
the little league games and to play dates and you know all the things to school. And there were days I could not get off that couch
Yeah.
or out of bed. And I remember feeling sad. I wanted to participate. I wanted to be there. But the next best thing was knowing that they were held.
Yeah.
You know, they had a lot of support. And my husband, God bless him, he kept things as, you know, you say normal, right? Kept things as
As
normal as possibly could
yes.
be. Yes,
Yes.
with my brother and with two young children. So
I'm a
it's
big believer that I wouldn't be and I use the word successful in a loose term of what I do. But if it wasn't for, of course, God in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and He's the one has put me and the family with me and my brother, two brothers, and my mom, helping after, especially when I got paralyzed, and
Mm-hmm.
then they've had to sacrifice a lot for me to be where I'm at. And then the people that's in and out my, like, those saying chapter, some people's here today and you never see them again. Someone's here for 6 months, never see them again. Someone's been there for 40 years. And so people in and out of my life that it's given me the stance to be positive and to persevere.
Isn't it something? And I don't think the people who are showing up for you, they're not even thinking about it. They just want to be there for you. And it's authentic and it's,
Yes.
I have some of the patients that I help navigate have called me and said, wow, people I didn't imagine are really showing up. Like, I just didn't know that they would be there for me. And some of the people they expected to show up didn't show up.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to one. I had to learn this the hard way. Here I was, the big athlete in high school, and I wouldn't say I was the most popular, but people knew me. And then after my injury, and was in the hospital and come home, nobody, they'd come to the hospital to visit. Then it got to maybe 2 or 3 times visits at the house, and then they lived their own life,
Yeah,
went on.
yeah.
And at the beginning, I was mad, going, why aren't they visiting me? Why ain't nobody calling? But it took me a while to figure out I can't stop them from living their own life.
No.
But
Human nature, right?
yeah, but some people, they don't come because they don't know what to say. They're afraid they're going to hurt your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Just the uncertainty.
Yeah.
They don't want to be involved and be in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I have no regrets of them. I would never go off on it for not, where have you been for
No.
40 years?
No. And even
I understand you had to live your life. You had to go, you get married, had children. Yeah.
yeah.
And
And
that's the way it is with today with some people just can't handle it and don't know what to do.
right.
Other people are going to be there, but they still have their own life.
Totally. And I think the people who have reached out to me about that and said, I don't know what to do. Some of my family members are just kind of, missing from my life right now. And we talk about the fear. It always goes back to fear,
Yeah.
And I think that once they understand, and they do understand, they're not even angry about it. But I shared with them that in my own life, when that happened a couple of times, it helped me show up for myself. Ultimately, we have to get in touch with that part of ourselves that we have to connect with. And whether that's just what we're telling ourselves. I remember going through a phase where, and I think this is totally natural. I'm not putting myself down. I think it's human nature to say, when you get cancer at the age of 40, why me? Why is my body failing? Why is everybody else walking around and they're healthy and I'm going through this? And it wasn't like I was having like a pity party or anything. And maybe I was at times, but it was this.
I was.
Yeah. Well, and it was
I
this.
did the old poor pitiful me thing,
Yeah.
being in a wheelchair. Yeah. And
I
I
think
think we all go through it. And I think it's a good emotion to go through because it shows you where you're at. It shows you where you want to go, and it gives you something to shoot for.
Yeah.
Again, it
It's part of the
provides
grieving.
that hope.
It's part of the grieving process. And then I
Yes.
think once you can move through that, you can change your perspective. And I remember the day I was in the shower and I was just kind of looking down at my breasts that had, I had this double mastectomy and just to be totally raw and vulnerable. I mean, I still 14 years later get out of the shower and I look in the mirror and I'm like, it's not something I ever get totally used to. I've accepted my body for how it is, but I still feel a little surprised and maybe I haven't totally accepted that, but I'm not putting myself down and I'm not being critical. And I think what happened was there was a moment that I had on the other side of excuse me, those 20 rounds of chemo and the radiation and the blood clot and the, all of it,
Yeah.
where I was in the shower and I was making peace with myself. And I had to have a hysterectomy and ovaries gone and, all of
Hmm.
it. And I think I was feeling like all of the parts of me that made me feel feminine and made me feel whole were missing.
Yeah.
And but I was in the shower and I had this moment of kindness to myself and reconciliation, and sort of, I was actually like almost massaging my arm. And I said, thank you for being my steadiest companion. Thank you for getting me through all that treatment and all of that hardship, that my body was strong enough to get me to where I am today.
Yeah.
And so there was some forgiveness of myself, and then in turn, this love towards myself and towards my body that wasn't failing me. It was actually strong enough to carry me through.
Well, and you had to have the mental fortitude as well,
Mhm.
to push through. Your
Yes.
body can be as healthy as you want to, but if you get that negative thing that's always beating you down,
Yeah.
yep.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well,
it's
and relying a lot on prayer and meditation and getting into a still space, and man, just on my knees at times, asking God to show me that I was okay, to reassure me that I was going to be fine, to reassure me I could move forward. And it's amazing when you ask from the depths of your soul, how quickly some of those things present to you in ways. I got in the car this one day. I just was miserable. I was just sad. I was scared. I was worried. And I wanted to know, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And I get in the car and I'm driving down the road, and this car just kind of pulls out right in front of me, kind of cut me off. And
mhm.
on the license plate said, believe, just believe. So I kind of chuckled to myself. I thought, okay.
It's
And then I
God
got
throwing you some inspiration in front of you.
inspiration. And then I got to the grocery store and I pull into now I'm pulling into the parking lot. And I swear to you, I have pictures of these from the same day. I
Hmm.
pull in and another car comes in front of me. It says, gotta believe, gotta believe. And that was just such a 1-2 punch in a good way, that keeps that opening to all is possible.
For our people that, and I'm not slamming, not preaching, but for the people that don't believe in a God, and that's you to come up with, how you want to do that later
Mhm.
on, how you're doing. But for those people, they would say, oh, it's just a coincidence that happened.
Mhm.
Uh, but my man Bird Baggett mentioned to you earlier about the hope. He says that his dad told him a long time ago, there's no such thing as coincidence. That's God being anonymous. Okay. So when you're going, God, give me something, let me know that everything's right, everything's going to be good, everything. And then here he is throwing two signs.
Yeah.
One of them almost hit you in the head with it, with it cutting you off like that.
Yeah.
But give you two signs. Just keep believing.
Well, I can honestly say it's been a comfort in my life to believe that there's something bigger than myself, looking after me, looking after us. And my parents instilled that. I grew up Catholic. I had a Catholic priest that was a dear friend of our family's, who said to me one time, if prayer is you talking to God, then intuition is him talking to you. And to
Mm,
pay attention, to listen to that wisdom that's in you.
yeah.
That was beautiful. I really appreciated that from him. And so, but however people get there, whether it's sitting in nature and sitting up against a tree and connecting that way to the earth, connecting to watching a bird. Sometimes I look at a hummingbird. I'm in such awe of these little birds that are so mighty.
Yeah.
And it's actually, the title of my book has the word hummingbird in it, hummingbird courage. And a woman said to me, she said, "You have hummingbird courage." And I thought, what is that? I'd never heard that before. And she said, the hummingbirds, I think they're the ruby-throated hummingbirds. They leave Mexico every year and head back to the United States. And when they're traveling over the Gulf, I think they fly straight for 24 hours without stopping. This little bird, wind, predators, weather. And she said they take their last sip of nectar and they go. And instinctually they know they're going to get to the other side. And she said, they have the courage, whether it's courage or pure instinct, they're going to go for it. And she said, that's you always go for it. And so there's something that really hit me there. And I think however you come to that greater connection to something beyond yourself, and I don't have any judgment about how people get there, where they are, or who they pray to. I really believe that is a personal journey.
Yep.
But in my life, I've had so many incredible blessings and so many knowing. It's a knowing, like a bone knowing in my bones that I am held. And I've had some close to death experiences too, where I was shown that I was completely held and I was utterly safe, here or there. And so that took away a lot of fear from me.
Yeah. So once we go through some things, we just get more confident, build up, and go from there. And it's one of the things you don't want to dare anything to happen to you, but if it comes, if you're better prepared and you have the faith that things are going to work out.
Yeah, so, I totally agree.
So, all right, Marilyn. Hey, this has been a great session. I feel like I've been in therapy with you right now.
Oh, nice.
I feel like I've opened up and you've opened up. I think we both got something done today.
It was really, really beautiful. And I'm so grateful. Thank you for inviting me in. I mean, it was just terrific. And I really do know that these moments of connection is really, it's been a blessing in my life. So thank you for sharing your story and your vulnerabilities too.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just one of them that, talk a little funny here. One woman got mad at me and she said I was highly unprofessional. I said, I've never once said I was professional. So what are you talking about? So, but I'm glad you came in and shared. Again, you don't know how many people, and I'm going to give you a hint because I've written 11 books now, that you don't know who you're going to help in the future when they read this book. Okay. But again, you have the faith knowing that someone is going to be touched and it's going to help them. And with yours, with the driving, and God showed me something, let me know where. Twice, quick story. Twice, I felt like I wasn't reaching and wasn't doing any good again. And I said, I am done my professional speaking. It's just not going anywhere. My book had been out. The very first one I showed you, One More Play, had been out. And before I tell you the ending, how they found the book, it was about a year apart that I was having my pity party. And then God was showing me I'm not done. Okay. I was at the store walking my service dog, and one woman was checking out and leaving. She says, hey, there's Ricardo. And I said, you got to meet Ricardo? I said, he meets so many people, I can't even remember who he meets. She says, well, I've never met him before. He's on the front of your book, isn't he? I said, well, yeah. She said, well, I've read your book with Ricardo in it, and he's chapter 15. And I said, oh, well, if you don't mind, could you tell me how you got the book? Did you Google an inspiration motivational book and it popped up, or someone referred it to you? Did you find it laying in a gutter in a trash can or something? And now, before I tell you where she found it, about a year later, same thing. I'm done with this. I'm tired of this. I'm not going to. God again had to prove his point. Okay, go to the store, Ricardo. This guy hollers at me, Mr. Purdue, Mr. Purdue. I turn around because I used to teach. I'm thinking, well, it's a former student. Well, no, I had no clue who this dude was. I'm letting you know I've read your book 4 times, and it's going to help me in life. But first thing in my head, I thought to
Oh,
myself, well, first thing I thought in my head, bullshit, you ain't read it no 4 times. I didn't say that out loud to him, but I
yeah.
said, you ain't thinking to myself. And so he started telling me. Then all of a sudden his girlfriend comes in. Is this the guy? He said, yeah, this is the one. I've read his book, and I'm always thank you for putting it out and just letting me know it. And I same thing asking, how'd you find the book? And same thing, finding a trash can, whatever. And then here's her both answers were the same. And again, you're going to have people that's going to read your book and you'll have no clue. But God was proving a point to me. Okay. They both said, I was locked up in the county jail and my book is in the county jail library.
Wow.
So
Wow.
after he told me that, I go, well, maybe he did read the book 4 times. He had plenty of time. So
But
I
it
didn't say it
clearly,
out. I didn't say it out loud to him. I
yeah.
just thought that. But
But clearly it had a big impact. And
for
you're right. You don't know who you touch along the way.
yeah,
Mhm.
even when you're this story, you're giving your journey right here. We'll never know who's listening to it and how it's helping. But again, have faith that
Yeah.
someone is using this information and your courage to help them.
Thank you. That's my wish.
There you go. All right, Marilyn. Hey, if you want anybody to reach out and say hello to you, maybe they're going through something similar and maybe they want some advice, how can they find you?
Sure. I have a website, MarilynGetasByrne.com. And you can subscribe and get the latest information about some exciting things coming, and especially about when the book comes out. And you can get me on TikTok. I put out these reels. I've done about maybe 45 or 50 just snippets of wisdom that have come through the journey. And I just want to share with others. So hopefully that's helpful to you. And that's at Marilyn Getas Byrne. And then on Instagram, Marilyn_Getas_Byrne.
And I'll put those in the show note to make it easier for people to find it
Okay.
through here. So, well, I appreciate you being here again. You got me all fired up. I need to go push me a mile in my wheelchair here in a minute. And
Oh,
so I'll be
awesome.
thinking about this, pondering through as I'm exercising. So, but
Okay.
I appreciate you doing this. I'm so glad you got spared your life.
Thank you.
Okay. So
Me-
you can, again, help other people that's going through similar situations.
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad you're blessed enough to have that tribe with your husband, your children, and the community
Totally.
support. I mean, I tell you,
You know,
people can't do this alone.
no, no. And those blessings are real. I remember thinking, I just want to get those kids through 8th grade. And one is playing football at Georgia Tech in his grad year. He just graduated from college, doing his grad year at Georgia Tech. And our daughter's a freshman in college back east in Vermont. And I'll tell you, it's a miracle. And believe me, it's not something that's lost on me. And I think about it and I count my blessings every single day. I stay in gratitude.
And as I'm sitting there listening to you, also remembering we've got to throw in your community support system all the medical teams that was there for you.
Oh,
Giving the right stuff to the right advice and the right
oh,
treatments. And
the
so
doctors,
if they didn't
nurses.
know, they know someone to talk to give them what to do. So yeah.
No, 100%. I had the best medical teams and people who truly cared, showed up for me big time, and had the incredible brain power and the perspective to know how to deal with these things as they came up. So believe me, and my community of people with more alternative therapies that
Mhm.
aided me in a way that I needed for mind, body, spirit through that. And oncologists, medical doctors are recognizing these modalities work and they help people kind of, reach that finish line.
Yep, exactly.
Mhm.
So it was so saying what used to be there's more than one way to skin a cat, 10,000 ways to skin a cat. So put them all together, help
Yep.
work together. So,
Yes.
all right,
Yep.
again, Marilyn, thank you for being here. Everybody else, hey, share this powerful journey with someone that's a little down. They can use a little pick me up and let them grab some gold nuggets, more than just one. Grab a bunch of them in here today. So, all right, Marilyn, thank you. Everybody else, hey, I'm Dr. James Purdue, the professor of perseverance. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.